What is up, everyone? Jeremy here. This video is going to serve as both the official feature walkthrough as well as a product update for my amp sim, the King. Now, this is a amp sim that my company AugustRose Audio recently released, and it's been out for a while, so we're going to go through both the official walkthrough of all the features as well as take a look at some of the new things that are coming in version 1.1.1. So that's going to be kind of a product update, if you will. So let's just dive into it. All right, so here we are. We have the King open, and this is just on its default settings, and this is the standalone application. So this comes in a few different versions. On Mac, you're going to get the standalone app as well as the VST3 and the AU version, or the .component. On Windows, you will get the standalone app and the VST3 version, so that you can use the VST3 or the AU version on Mac in your DAW, or just boot up the standalone version if you just want to jam, and the same thing on Windows. So here we go. We'll just kind of quickly go through a feature overview. So the first thing is you have a pedal section with 3 pedals in it. You have the amp section as well as post EQ and the impulse response loader section. Now, going into a little bit more detail on each of these. So the first thing is the 3 pedals. The tweaker pedal is the first in the chain, and I want to point out this is different from basically every other amp sim I think I've ever used, where everything flows, the signal flows from left to right. In this, it is meant to be more realistic to the analog world, where if you're plugging things in, you're plugging things in typically on the right, and your signal flows through the left until it goes into the amp, which is what's supposed to be, pointed out by the cables here. But starting with the first pedal, which is the tweaker, and this is basically just a clean boost with an EQ in it. So you have a high band, mid-high, low mid, and low band, as well as the level, and of course the on-off bypass switch. You have the faux tin pedal, which is, if it's not clear, is based off of the Fortin modified TS808 overdrive. So you have the level, the tone, and the overdrive. And then you have the howler, which, if you have followed my channel and my content for a while, you know this is a plugin. This was the very first plugin I ever released. It was free. It's still free. And it's just a custom overdrive that allows you to blend in the DI signal with the process signal. So those are the pedals. The amp is, actually, you can see it behind me here. This is based on my personal Marshall JCM800 Kerry King signature amp, hence the name, the King. So looking at this, you have a presence, bass, middle, and treble EQ in your tone stack. Then you have the master knob, as well as the preamp, and a gate and a salt knob. Now, diving into these a little bit deeper. So the master behaves like a typical master. The higher you push this, you get a little bit more compression, a tiny bit more saturation, but it's mainly going to be a bit more compressed sound. You pull it down a little bit, you get less of that compression. The preamp is your gain, basically. So other than that, you have your tone stack, and the beast mode on this is just always on. There will be a future or an update in the future where you will be able to deselect the beast mode and just run this as a standard JCM800, just like you can on the actual amp. But for now, the beast mode is just locked on, and you get the LED on the beast mode switch, which is why it shows always on. When you deselect the beast mode, you lose that built-in gate functionality. So the LED is off basically when you deselect it. However, for now, like I said, it's always on, so you're always going to see the LED. When it's red, the gate is closed. When it's green, the gate is open. And the gate knob here. So this behaves just as it does on the actual amp itself, which is a little counterintuitive. And I've seen this in other videos as well. But basically, you'll get more gating as you turn it to 0, less gating as you turn it to 10. As you can see, I just turned it to 10, it basically shuts off because the threshold is now so low. Even just the little bit of signal I've got coming through here is opening the gate. So just know that's a little counterintuitive, but that's the way it works on the amp, so I modeled it that way. And then the Assault is, it pushes a different EQ curve, as well as a tiny bit of saturation into before it hits the preamp and then goes into the power amp section. but this is basically just a custom EQ curve that I'm told, or as I understand it, is kind of Kerry's custom preferred EQ. So the more you turn this up, the more you're kind of applying that EQ curve to the signal. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think all the presets I created with this, I just left it all the way off. There's a lot of top end in this, and again, this models exactly what I got from the amp itself. So as you get if you have one of these amps, you turn up the assault, and if you actually run this through an EQ, you'll see where you can see the signal. It adds a ton of like presence way up high. So this models that. It may be good for some like lower gain tones, maybe some leads, things like that. But typically if you're trying to do like chug-in heavy stuff, I just leave it off because it's just too much high end. But that's the amp. So let's talk about the post EQ now. All right, so post EQ. This is a 9-band graphic EQ, and I believe it goes up, 15 or minus 15 dB on each of the bands. And you have your on and off, and that's essentially it. So if you're familiar with a graphic EQ, that's basically all it is. The one thing I will point out is you are EQing the signal that comes out of the amp before it goes into the impulse response section, so that you're not EQing the impulse responses. And that's one, I find you get a better sound when you do it that way versus trying to EQ your impulse responses, which have an EQ already in them, because these are pre-processed impulse responses. Obviously, if you're using your own custom impulse responses that are raw, well, they're not EQ'd, and you'll have to do that yourself. But the ones that I have provided in here as part of the Cabs of Chaos IRs, which is my personal impulse response collection, and you can get that on the website. You'll find all the links for this down in the description below, by the way. But these are 15 pre-processed, I hate to say the term, but mix ready, if you will. So they're already EQ'd and processed in a way where you can drop these in, and very minimal, if no tweaking at all, you're gonna get a great sound. And that's how they were designed. And then we have 4 of the Bogren Digital IRs. So I worked this out with Bogren Digital to have some kind of quote unquote licensing, if you will, so that they would allow me to embed 4 of their fantastic impulse responses in here as well. So you get those. And then of course you can just load some external responses like I mentioned before. And this is a dual IR loader. So you have one on the left, one on the right. And of course you have the on and off bypass for each one. You have the polarity flip for each side and a level, so you can adjust the level of each one so that you can play with mixing different IRs and play with this, the level of each side, just because that'll obviously clearly change the sound as you adjust the level if you have different IRs on each side here. The last thing I'll point out is this is not meant to be thought of as the left channel and the right channel. It doesn't work that way. If you just turn one on, you're going to get this impulse response, both whether it's a mono signal or not. This is going to be the same out of both sides. If you turn both on, it's just running it through both channels, whether it's mono or stereo signal. Both of them are running through both of these IRs, and that's what's going to be what you get out of the output. So don't think of this as like left channel and right channel. It's not that. All right, and so outside of the actual main elements of the plugin itself, you have a couple other things. You have an input knob and an output knob, and these are pretty self-explanatory, I think, but your input is going to increase the input signal coming in. So if you're looking at the level here and you're getting a real low signal, obviously you would want to check your the input on your audio interface, make sure you've got that up properly. But of course you can just pull this up here or even pull it down if it's too hot. And then you have your output, which after you've done all your processing throughout the whole thing here, if you need to pull down your level or up, boost up your level a little bit, you can do that there. And then of course you have your input level and your output level. And lastly, in the standalone version, you have this little gear icon. This will not be visible on the plugins because it's irrelevant in the plugin. You don't manage audio devices in the plugin version. Your DAW does that. But in the standalone version, you need to select input and output devices and things like that. So you click that button and you get the audio device selection pop-up dialog where by default, you should see a bar across the top that says feedback protection is on. So you'll click into that and then you can turn the feedback protection on and off, which is just essentially a mute. And then you can choose your output and input devices and select what input slot you want and all of that. Select your sample rate and your buffer size, and then you are good to go. Of course, a test will let you know if you've got things set up so you can hear the tone. And that is it. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a guitar and just play through some of these presets so you can hear it. All right, so for this, I just grabbed my trusty Solar A1.7D. This just has the stock Duncan Solar pickups in it. And that's going into my API preamp into the Mac. And then we're running the standalone version. And I have not changed any settings. So this is just the exact same thing you're gonna hear the very first time you open up the King. That's it. And you can hear there's just a touch of overdrive or saturation there. It's not being boosted in any way. There's no pedals on. And it's just, what's this, Apocalypse Now IR. So let's just kind of jump through some of these presets. We have a black metal, which is going to be obviously a ton of high end. Your typical black metal tone. Sugar, which has more mids, a lot more gain, and it's going to be a more controlled sound. I think I'm using the Howler on this one, yeah. So I really find that this doesn't push quite as much gain, but it really kind of cleans up the DI before it hits the amp, and you get this really tight kind of Meshuggah style sound. You get the idea. So then let's see, we have Death. So you can hear this one, I think I used the post EQ on this to really push a lot more 1K, 2K, pull down a ton of the like 250 hertz. So to give more of like the, was it like the chainsaw-y kind of upper mids, if you will. There you go. Then we have Fit for Chugs. This one's a really thick tone. I think when I dialed this in, it was to give me something that had a really good resonance, like ring out when I did an open chug, especially with these dissonant chords. So this is just a stupid little riff I like to do with some dissonant chords in it to really kind of put this to the test, but here you go. Nice and thick. Let's see, Captain Crunch going to be obviously super low gain. Nice low gain tone. The howling. This is another one of those, again, because of the howler, it really breaks things up nicely, but it has a very controlled chug, so it doesn't ring out as much. Comparing it to the fit for chugs, right? So so this makes it great for things where you want a really tight controlled chug, maybe something like thrash, but it sounds really good. All right, so there you go. There are some audio examples of some of the presets of the King. So let's go ahead and walk through the product update for what is new in version 1.1.0. All right, so the first thing brand new in version 1.1.0 is a completely new audio device management setup. And you just saw it, in fact. So if you were wondering, why this looked different when I showed it earlier, well, that's why. This is brand new. And behind the scenes or underneath or internally, there's a lot new audio processing that integrates with this audio device management, this custom audio device management. So all of this is brand new. And because of this, I was able to get rid of the very confusing stereo on-off switch, which was only like an input. It only affected the input. It was so essentially like a stereo input where you could turn it off and it would just copy the left channel to the right channel if you only had signal coming in out of your left side, which would happen because I wasn't using a custom device management like this, and it was forcing you to basically select two inputs, so like a stereo input. So anyways, I got rid of that nonsense, implemented this custom device management, so now you can just select a single input, and it just, that single input, so it's mono on both, so you have the same signal coming through on the left and the right. So that's the first thing. The next thing is I was finally able to reproduce and hopefully fix the random right channel DI/glitching issue that some Windows users were experiencing and had reported. Now, I don't have a way to demo this because on the new version, it's fixed. I haven't been able to reproduce it. Now, I have sent this build out to some folks to test it and see if it's truly fixed and if they can reproduce it. I haven't heard back yet, so fingers crossed that issue is fixed. So if you are a Windows user, look for that issue to be fixed in version 1.1.0. And the last thing that is new in version 1.1.0 that I want to call out is some auto gain compensation to the tone stack in the amp. So as you adjust the presence, bass, middle, and treble up or down, there is now some additional auto gain compensation so that it smooths out the overall level. So when you boost things up real high, like if you want a ton of mids, you're not going to get this crazy loud output where you have to start adjusting the output knob itself to compensate for that. It's kind of doing it internally for you. So just a quick demo of that. I'm just just gonna go back to one of these other presets here. And so if I take this middle and crank it up, you're gonna hear it's not gonna get insanely loud even when I turn this all the way up. It'll compensate for the increase in level. So clearly it does get a little bit louder, which, you know, it should. You're pushing more level with these additional mids, but it's not nearly as bad as it was previously. So hopefully with this auto gain compensation, it makes it easier to dial in tones because you're not constantly having to pull down or boost up the output to compensate for changes in the tone stack. All right, everyone, that is going to be it for this video. So if you found this information interesting or helpful and you dig the amp sim, do me a favor, hit like down below. Consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on the King, as well as new products that'll be launching soon. So keep an eye out for that. Click the links down below to go check out these products on the website. It's AugustRoseAudio.com. Again, you'll find the links in the description below. Go check those out. And leave some comments down below on your thoughts on the amp sim if you've checked it out. And I might actually go ahead and drop a discount code somewhere in the description below. So look for that as well if you're interested in grabbing it. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching. And as always, thank you for your support.